Ravi, where were you?
Can't answer. I'm ready to give a share. That was in East Moline. It's been a while.
You got coffee?
Had to go to work for a little bit after the wait a minute. It was no sun up. Yeah, the baby and the grandson, the bar mitzvah and the holidays. So it's been a while since I went out of town. So all right. Well, it used to be nice because I used to, be able to continue to do via Zoom. So that was always good. But now, all right.
Put a Zoom screen in here. That's what it is.
Yeah. Amar Shmuel. So Lamed Ches is today's daf, Beitza. So Amar Shmuel, 7 lines from the top. Second word. Amar Shmuel short shel pitem harehu karagli kol adam. The short of a fattener. So he fattens cows for people, and people are all around. And therefore, it's basically known even from before that, there could be buyers from all over on Yantif who come. And some people's tchum is this way, some people's tchum is that way. So buyers come, so it's known that buyers are going to come. And therefore, the animal is karagli kol adam because he has in mind that it's going to be purchased by somebody else. And therefore, it goes by the tchum of where that individual is. And shar shal roeh, harei karagli oisair. But however, that of a shepherd, and now a shepherd typically does only people of the Bnei Ha'ir, only people of that town, so it doesn't go according to him. Rather, it goes for the town, and therefore the tchum of people take from the shepherd. It's only karagli oisair, and not of if somebody takes it from a far off town. Fine, 2 dots. Hashayel kli mechaveiro me'erev yantiv. So Mishnah said, one who goes ahead and he borrows a kli mechavero on Erev Yantif, then it's like the borrower's place. Since he borrowed it from before Yantif, so there it goes by the borrower's tchum, where he's going to be for Shabbos. That's where the object goes to tchum. So the person says, Pshita. It's obvious. So the answer is no. If you only gave it to on Yantif, in other words, he asked permission from before Yantif, but he only got it on Yantif. So Madin, just have Labish say Ukme. Maybe since it's not as Rishus that he didn't actually borrow it yet, so therefore it goes like the Mashil, like the lender. Kamash Mon comes teaches no Messiah. It goes like Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Yechon Hashel Kli Mechavero Me'erev Yantif. One who goes ahead and borrows an object from his friend on Erev Yantif, even though he only picked it up on Yantif itself, it goes like the tchum of the borrower himself. And the Yantif, Karagli Hamasha, a person goes ahead and borrows it on Yantif itself, so then it goes by the lender. Why? Because when Yantif started, it wasn't borrowed yet, and therefore the lender had it. It's where his makom shvisa is, right? Where his tchum is, and therefore the other person. Yeah. You can borrow it. Yeah, he can borrow. He's not acquired. He's borrowing it. He's borrowing it to go ahead to use it. Right. That which is only on the Rabbanan level. We don't want people to come to write down or to make acquisitions. Right. So over here is just borrowing it. So borrowing is no big deal.
So the Kalim also have a tchum shabbos.
Typically, they're the tchum of their owners. Correct.
Okay, but in this.
So in this case, someone's borrowing it. So who does it go by? The lender or the borrower? So it depends. If it was lent before, then it goes by the lender. Then it goes by the borrower. And if it was during, like we're saying over here, then it goes by the lender. So the Gemara says obvious. Pshita. This is like the ragi v'shavim mine. Normally this guy borrows, every week from this guy. So Ma'al just said we should say kamaikim law. Maybe since basically he always comes and borrows, right? So maybe it should, go by his Kamash Blan. Therefore, teach us perhaps he found someone else to borrow from. He's not borrowing from me. Therefore, the lender doesn't have in mind that this person's borrowing from him. And therefore, when that person goes ahead and indeed borrows on Yantif, it goes after the rishus of the mashil of the lender. So to a woman now who borrows from her friend. The Mishnah, right? So the Mishnah was talking about a case. Right? Spices of mayim and melach liisosa, right? Or water and salt for her dough. Harei karagli shtei. I'm just reading the Mishnah. It's like the position of both of them. So this one has the dough, the flour, and this one has the
Salt,
the salt and water, whatever it is, and it goes by both of them. So you need the overlapping tchum of the two of them. Zok the Gemara. Kisalik Rabbi Abba. So Rabbi Abba, he's going to be our main character, Rabbi Abba. So Kisalik Rabbi Abba, Omar, when Rabbi Abba's going there to tell, he says, "He Rabbi Daime Nilsa Kabul." I should say something. Then when I go there to sell, I'm going to press them. I want to go ahead and press them. Say something like, "Oh, this he's a learned man." So Kisalik, when he went up to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkel, Rabbi Yechnan, Rabbi Chanina Bar Papi, Rabbi Zera, he found those three. Some say Rabbi Yavel, Rabbi Shimon Pazi, Rabbi Yitzchak Nacha, and some say it was Rabbi Yavu and Rabbi Shimon Pazi and Rabbi Yitzchak Nacha. The Yazan, they were sitting in the Kamri, and they basically said to them, "Amai, why is our case? Why is that the halacha in our case in the Mishnah?" Right? The one person has the dough, the other person has the salt and the water. So it goes by both of them. Let the water and the salt be bottled, be nullified to the dough. That's the main ingredient. And should be wherever the makom, the dough is, that's where this challah can be brought. Why are we taking into account these other small, minor details? So now comes Rabbi Abba's big chance, right? So he steps up to the mic, Samarlu. This is Rabbi Abba. So I turn the page. Hare, Shnisar loikav chitin basar kavin chitin shochavera yechel hala v'chadi. One goes ahead and he mixes. Let's say he has 10 kav of wheat, and someone else's 1 kav get mixed up in there. Can he go ahead and eat it and laugh and say, "Hey, I gained the free kav because it's bottle inside"? No. So too over here, we'll say that the salt in the water was not bottle. So achichu aleho, they laughed at him. So yes, so he said one thing. He wrote something. I should say something. They were makabel, and they weren't makabel. Samarlu, gosaichu shakli. What did I take your clothes? Why are you guys laughing? So hadur achichu. They laughed at him more. Right? It's also a funny line. So why were they laughing? Some Rabbi Shia. It was good they laughed at him. It was not a good svara he had to them. Now remember, they are asking from a position of they're asking for a position that it should be bottled. Rabbi Abba is defending, saying that why it shouldn't be bottled. Okay. Now, so they're saying Rabbi Yoshi is saying it's actually good that they laughed, and I was just good, brother. It's a good question. His answer didn't answer why. Why? My shna chitim besarim de like kamer lehu dagda min sheno mino min sheno mino. But what's the reason? Now, why he now his proof was it's like wheat and someone else's wheat gets mixed up with your wheat. You can just eat all the wheat and say, "Oh, it's bottle." No, there's two separate. It's not bottle. So why didn't he bring a case of wheat and barley? Why did he bring wheat and wheat? Because we know that wheat and barley's mino shein of the mino is bottle. Two different items is bottle, right? So therefore, that case is bottle. Now, in that case, if it's someone's wheat and got into their barley, then perhaps they could go ahead and eat it. But even in the case of wheat into wheat that you brought, need to Rabbi Yehuda bottle. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not bottle. According to bottle, it is mevatel. It is mevatel. So even in that case, it should be mevatel. Why don't you bring the case of wheat and barley, right? So even wheat and wheat is also bottle. You don't want to bring wheat and barley because it's not mevatel, right? So because it is bottle, right? Even though according to this case, going to abundance, bottle. Some of them suffer. No, no, he's saying good, right? He's like no, like Moshe Rabbeinu, right? He's saying good. One who goes ahead and picks out little stones from the gairan, right? From over there when they're measuring the wheat out from the pile, right? And when in the silo over there of his friend, he pulls out the pebbles, right? So he is chayiv to pay him the value of wheat. Why? Because it's known that when they go ahead and there's some little stones that are stuck in there, and you pay by value. So if you take some of the stones out, you're actually lowering the price. So even though you took the stones out, right, you're chayiv to go ahead and pay around a lam and ches amid base.
Not the price, it's the volume.
The volume, I'm
The
saying.
weight,
No, but
the
you
weight.
owe him, right? Chayiv, right? So chayiv l'shalom lo tevei chitim. You have to pay him not the price of pebbles for that, the volume there, right? It's alma kila chasrei. We see over there that even though these items that are not really the main part of the wheat, they're still considered to be there. Hachanami kila chasrei. So to over here, the salt and the water and whatever tavlin was brought here is considered to be in the mixture. Just like if you take out the stones or the pebbles, it's considered like you took out something, and then you have to go ahead and pay. So to over here, the salt and the pepper should be chashiv enough, and that's the reason why it's not batel. So Rabbi Abba, you're saying good, huh?
It can never be returned. Once it goes into the mixture, whatever they're baking,
True,
it's done.
true.
Technically be put back.
True, but it's still considered to be chashiv. It's still considered to be in there. We don't say it's nullified. It's no longer there. It's still considered there, and therefore, since it's there, it had an owner. The owner was in this makom, and the other owner of the dough is in this makom. Therefore, it can only be areas that overlap.
Why are they lying?
Huh?
Why are they lying?
Ah, so that was where he responded. So he said, "Amar le Abaye, I v'lo shani le mar bein mamon sheish l'tayvin the mamon sheish l'tayvin." But maybe it's a difference between something that has tayvin versus something that it doesn't have tayvin claimants, right? If one case someone says, "Hey, you took out stones from this item," so obviously to me it was chashuv. But over here, right, the person who gave the salt, right, or the water, right, they're not claiming the dough as theirs, right? So this should be like a case of where there is no claimant. If there is no claimant, then it's like he's giving permission for it to be nullified in the other. So maybe it should be nullified because we don't have like two people here. It's not like, hey, we split it, I gave you the water and you had all the flour and all everything else. No, right? It's like you gave it over. Summer late. So he said back, now this is Rav Safra, right? And Rav Safra was defending Rabbi Abel, right? So now Rav Safra is coming from the side who held that the reason why it shouldn't be mevatel. So I'm like, ayu tamech, hadam Rav Chizda nevela betela b'shchuta. Lefi sheyefshar l'shchuta shetasa nevela. Now you have a piece of nevela meat, right? Nevela is an animal that was not shechted properly. It was not shechted properly. And it's batel in shchuta, and it's batel in animals that were shechted properly, kosher meat. Why is that? Because it's impossible for the shchuta to become like the nevela. The shchuta, right? Now, is that will never become tameh, right? Bastard meat that was shechted will never become tameh, like that of nevela, right? It will remain tar. So therefore, right? It's like two different items, right? If it's like two different items, min shein b'mino, it's batel. However, the opposite case, shchuta ain't batel b'neila. If you have a small piece of shechted kosher meat and it got mixed up in your, with the other meats, right? Then it's not batel. Ain't batel. Why? Lefi shefshar lebevela shetasa shchuta, because it's possible for a nevela to become shchuta. Just like shchuta is not tameh, so to nevela, if it comes to a point where people won't eat it anymore, it's too gross, right? It loses its tameh status. So therefore, just like if one touches it, right, it already decays a little bit and it's already gross, it's tahor. So too, it'll be like kosher meat, which is tahor, right? Touch a piece of kosher meat, it's tahor, right? So what do you see from there? It says it's min shebimino. Min shebimino is ein batel. So therefore, if shchuta is shchuta inside nevela is not batel, but nevela inside shchuta, right, inside kosher meat is batel. Now, what's the question? So wait and say over here in the first case, right? If we said the nevela is batel and shchuta, the nevela, the small meat is batel. But if it has owners, right, it's not batel, right? If someone says, "Hey, where's my piece of non-kosher meat?" Right? It should not be batel, right? But that's not the case. And if you're going to say, yeah, maybe it should be batel. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yechiel ben Nuri, chefze hefker, kain shvisa. An item that is hefker does acquire makom shvita. It even has no claimants, right? It's hefker, right? It's not someone's claiming ownership. Even an item which is ownerless has a makom, is chashuv. Alfi shein lebalam. It's like they had owners. So too over here, we could say that the salt and all that it's like it has owners. Even if no one wants it, he's giving up. It's like hefker, but there's still, right, a hefker item still has its makom. So it makes sense, not batal. So Malay, me kamadami sisura l'mamayna. Isura batal, mamayna lo batal. So he says, this is the answer. This is what the reason why they sort of didn't understand the Mishnah is how are you comparing Isser to Mamo? When it comes to something when someone's owns it or someone doesn't own it. So then you could say, well, it depends on claimants. Some that people give it up, people that it belongs to one, it doesn't belong to the other. But however, when it comes to Isurim, right, an Isser, right, then we can say it can be nullified. So in this case over here, right, that even though even though that it was owned by the person, when it comes to Isurim, right, then it should be different than Mammon. There is no claimant. So therefore, in this case, right, so by the Gabi the Isser, it should be nullified, right? It should be nullified. It shouldn't be in existence when it comes to Isser. When it comes to the Tchum, that's not an issue of who owns it. It's an issue of Isser Beheter, right, where it can go. So therefore, we'll say that it could be batal. So if that's the case, time am I? So if that's the case, so what's the reason why we say that it's not batal, right? It should be batal, right? Both owners, right? The one who owns this and the one who owns that, right? It should be like you just said. If it's considered to be isser, as the Rabbanim from Eretz Yisrael insisted, so it should be batal. So why do we take both owners into account? So Gemara gets three theories. So maybe what's going to happen, right? If you just go by one of them and just a dough, so then you might have a case where both people give dough and they do a challah together, right? And they'll say, oh, it only goes after one person, but it's not batal. So therefore, because that case, they want to make sure that it goes by both people. And Rav Amar Tavlin, I just want to get to the Mishnah. Tavlin l'tamei tame lebatum. The tavlin are placed, the spice are placed in for flavor. So something which is flavor is not batal. Since it's flavor, it's not batal. Therefore, we consider the owners. What do you mean? Because we're talking about it. One person has the dough, another person wants to. He needs salt for his challah, or needs water on top. Because that's the main part. That's the main ingredient, the dough. So maybe it should be nullified. Part of it, but the Mishnah says not nullified. The Mishnah says not nullified. So why is it nullified? Because spices are chashuv. It's there for the flavoring. If something is there for the flavoring, it's not nullified. We have to consider like it's there, and therefore, if the owner of the salt or whatever the flavor was, this was his tchum, and the other person was over here, and overlaps a little bit, you can only be in the area where it overlaps. And the Rav Ashi Omar, we're talking about something that has the davashesh lamatir. Wait till tomorrow. Even though 1 in 1,000 is not but. Rabbi Yehuda, Paiter Ramayim, and the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, if it's water, we don't care about the water. So Mayim Yi Melach Lo, but only water, not salt. Because they're always batal, whether it's in the dough or whether it's in a dish, right? It's not considered like it's there. So you shouldn't take it into account. So like Kasha, Hav Melech is Taruknis. Right, one is melchus domas, I guess, is smaller salt which does get sort of absorbed in, right? And the other is the much larger salt. I don't know the kosher salt or whatever they call it, right? Is the much larger pieces that don't get absorbed in. So those you can
the other way around.
which
Stone is the thicker.
no. Stomas is dak is small. It's much smaller. It's butler. It's small. Yeah. Stomis Rashi, right? He says Stomis dakahi ma'od ubatla, right? It's very small. It's bottle. But hey, the Stomis dakahi, right? You know, Darmina mipnei ma amayim achronim chayva. I'm sure mipnei shemach Stomis yesh mesam yeseinayim alma dakahi. He learns it's small. So the Gemara says, "I v'tanya Rabbi Yehuda Imer ma'im melach b'teim be'isa b'teim b'teker mipnei rutva." But we have another case. You just said before, Ma'im Melech, one brisa says batil in dough or a dish. And over here, it seems to say it's only batil in dough, but it's not batil in a dish because of the sauce, right? So like when we're talking about it's very thick, In other words, and you can't see it, so therefore, then it's batal. But however, if it's very loose and the water's still there, then we'll say it's not batal. All right, we'll stop here. Mitzvah Shem on Sunday.
7 o'clock.
Oh, did you guys